In today's episode of the Platform Presents podcast, I have an interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Canberk Beker. He's hailing over from the team at the folks over at DeepCrawl, and DeepCrawl is a very interesting tool. It basically helps you to generate traffic that brings you revenue. Technical SEO is really the focus, what the tool is focusing on, and website health. And we want to see how DeepCrawl helps you to optimize performance there. I know we had a lot of guys on the show that are getting into inbound at the very moment. And one of the earliest steps is always to get the basics for SEO right. So probably DeepCrawl is quite helpful in that scenario. So Canberk, welcome to the show.
Hi, Lucas. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So maybe for everybody who hasn't looked into DeepCrawl as much in depth yet, what is it all about?
Well, we are basically a technical SEO software that can monitor your website, that can analyze your website health and give you insights about how your website can attract more users, more visitors, and how you can always be top of the Google search results. And we are doing this by analyzing your website health, and analyzing all of your site architecture.
That makes a lot of sense. So it takes away the technical SEO review. Is that what you're saying?
I would say we help technical SEOs in their job, but to be fair, with DeepCrawl, we can basically do the job of 20 SEOs in an hour.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Okay, so what types of businesses typically benefit the most? Like, do I have to have a certain traffic size? Do I need a certain amount of page depth, amount of pages? Like, where does it, where does the tool basically have a sweet spot?
I mean, I would say the sweet spot are the websites that have more than 1,000 web pages. And when you think about it, actually, it makes a lot of sense, because in order for you to get the best out of a technical SEO tool, your website needs to be complicated. Your structure needs to be complicated. Therefore, our sweet spot is most of the time retail and e-commerce companies, followed by financial services and banks. And in the third class, I think that would be software companies.
And you said about 1,000 pages, which you say that makes sense?
I mean, the sweet spot, I would say 10,000 pages,
Mm-hmm.
but most of our clients have hundreds of thousands of pages. Some of them have billion pages.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense, and it definitely gives a good idea on where the product fits really well. Like, who do you say is typically bringing the product on board, like within those organizations? Is that like, an e-commerce manager, for example? Or is it really an SEO agency that is bringing in the tool? Like, who is typically the champion for DeepCrawl within the organizations?
Actually, this depends on the industry. For instance, if you are speaking about e-commerce, it is the product managers, because in e-commerce, product is the website is the product. So product managers are responsible for the e-commerce websites. So we tend to target product managers on the e-commerce side, but for the financial services side or software side, I would say SEOs and most of the time growth people, growth managers, head of growth. And sometimes actually, in some cases, we work with companies in which the champions were CTOs or developers.
Yep, makes sense. Now, what would you say? How do they learn about DeepCrawl? Like, what's their journey like? Or in other words, what are the client acquisition channels that you guys found to be, very efficient and helpful to reach those guys?
Actually, this has been a pretty challenging journey for us, because DeepCrawl, like 4 or 5 years ago, was an SMB tool, and it was a self-serve tool. But with our new products, we have rebranded ourselves and repositioned ourselves as an enterprise tool. But even though in the SMB side, most of the people knew us and we had a perfect brand awareness, in the enterprise side, we didn't have that kind of brand awareness. So while we were repositioning ourselves, we obviously started with traditional lead gen method, like ebooks, webinars, and we tried to educate the audience. But as we were shifting more and more to enterprise, also we start shifting from lead gen to demand generation in order to increase the brand awareness and create the whole demand journey. Now we still run some ebook campaigns and webinars to generate code leads, but I would say we are giving our 70% focus to demand generation campaigns. So we are actually trying to reach the bigger audience by educating them, by showing the importance of SEO. And the thing is that SEO, to be fair, has always been seen as the orphan child of marketing, because you cannot calculate the return on investment. And if you are a tool that costs like thousands of dollars, you cannot convince people really easily, because if you are going to purchase an ABM tool, you can calculate the return on investment easily, or another marketing tool. But with SEO, it was not possible. It is not possible. So we are trying to educate our audience, and we are trying to show that even though return on investment cannot be fully calculated, the potential impact would be crucial.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, one quick question there before we move on, because you separated very clean between lead generation and demand generation. And maybe for the listeners, can you break it down? Like, how do you define the both of them, and what have you seen in your demand generation to be important things to do? Because it's easier said than done in a way. So.
I mean, I would say with lead generation, the targets have always been the number of MQLs, number of SQLs. But when you focus on numbers, actually you lose the track. You lose your focus, and you at that point you do everything you do for getting more numbers. But at the end of the day, for the company to grow, numbers actually don't make any sense. The revenue makes sense, and since you focus solely on the numbers, you lose your focus with the revenue, and you cannot generate more revenue. And since your focus only becomes, I don't know, ebooks, webinars, and other lead gen methods, you at some point also lose your purpose to educate your audience, because you just want to generate more and more leads, and then it makes you create ebooks just for the sake of ebooks, do webinars just for the sake of webinars. But even though you can generate some leads with that, these leads do not come to DeepCrawl. I mean, they download ebooks, they want to watch webinars, but they are not coming directly to us. But with demand gen, they are coming directly to us, because we are not asking them to do anything. We are trying to educate them. We are trying to show them what their problem is. And once they understand what their problems are, then they come to us organically. And once they know their problems, they convert much more easier. Let me give you this example. Normally, yeah, I can give the numbers. We have this funnel, MQL to SQL, SQL to opportunity, and
feel free. You don't have to show any detailed numbers, just for the sake.
No, I mean, just for the example, with the lead generation from MQL to SQL would take like 1 month, sometimes 2 months. From SQL to opportunity, it would take another 2 months, because you needed to educate this audience. But with demand gen, since this audience already knows what their problems are, what they want, you don't need to waste that time. Like, they are coming and they just want to be in the meeting. They just want to buy the product. So instead of waiting for 4 months, this funnel goes like in 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
And what have you learned then for demand generation? What are helpful actions that you can do? Is that you're going to speak on events? Is that you're going to, what are you doing basically on a day-to-day different than when you were doing lead generation? Because that's what a lot of people ask us on the show. Like, what is the actual operational differences?
I mean, I think the biggest difference is that now all of our content is for educating people. It is not for clickbait. It is not for getting more traffic. It is just for educating people. And to be fair, it took a lot of time and it was challenging, because we needed to create different scenarios, different educated content for e-commerce, for companies with more than 10,000 employees, for companies in the US, in the UK. But once you have strong, powerful contents, then we basically ungated all of the contents. Like, we still, again, have the ebooks, but we ungated most of the important content. And we start promoting this ungated content with the campaigns for brand events, like on LinkedIn and on Facebook. And we just aimed for traffic, website traffic. Then we start retargeting these people who visited that specific UTM. And of course, they didn't convert really easily, but we target them with testimonials. Then we retarget them with some product videos. And at some point, we start retargeting them with the LinkedIn conversation ads, in which we say, okay, we know that you have been here, you did this. Now you are ready, you should be ready. Let's have a talk. And it has been working pretty well, actually. And what we did here, what we did differently was here that especially with LinkedIn messaging, LinkedIn conversation ads, I'm the one who is sending the messages to marketers. Our head of SDR is the one who is sending messages to other salespeople. Our product manager is the one who is sending messages to other product managers. And when a fellow persona sends you the message, apparently you are more likely to convert. And the response rate I'm getting from marketers is amazing. The response rate that our product manager is getting from other product managers is amazing. So we try to have a more granular approach, and we try to target personas in a very specific manner.
That gives definitely a good overview. So if we summarize that for people who are not in so much in depth in that topic, that would mean, well, on the demand gen side, it's more activities like content for education, retargeting advertising, and then you said LinkedIn conversational ads, if I heard you correct?
Yes, LinkedIn conversation ads is the bottom of the funnel activity, and it has been generating a lot of meetings for us.
Gotcha. What is just because I think a lot of people might not know the format, what is a LinkedIn conversation ad? Is that just like a specific type of ad that they run, or what?
It is a simple message on LinkedIn, but it is a sponsored message. And apparently,
I see what you're saying. Gotcha.
Every LinkedIn member can get only one sponsored message each week. So your message doesn't get lost among the other ones. And you can create the workflow within that message. So if someone says no, you can still show different stuff. Or if someone says yes, you can still create a workflow to understand what they want and how you can approach.
Sounds very cool. Perfect. And that's then the same people that have been reading and been retargeting for you guys. Awesome. Like, great. Yeah. No, we share that. Appreciate that you share that, because that is super interesting for the listeners. Let's move on a little bit to not go into too much depth there. How do you think about the website? Like, what role does the website play for DeepCrawl?
Our website is our revenue channel. And we are trying to turn our website into our number one revenue channel. Because we used to rely on so much to other channels like LinkedIn, like Google, Facebook. But at the end of the day, if you turn your website into a revenue channel, then your marketing cost will significantly decrease. And in order to turn your website into a revenue channel, of course, your website needs to be healthy, and it needs to be geared towards to conversion. And for the website health, okay, we have no problem because we are a website health tool. But from the conversion side, we still need to do some fixes. We've been working on that, and actually, our new website is coming on the middle of September. Because what we are seeing is that now our current website is only for one persona, SEOs. But actually, our tool is not only for one person. So our website will be a different website for product managers. It will be a different website for marketers, and it will be a different website for SEOs. And hopefully, it will generate better conversions.
Yep, makes a lot of sense. As we slowly sort of getting towards the end of the interview, I have some questions, some rapid fire questions to get to know you and your journey and marketing a little and growth a little bit better. Are you ready for those?
Sure.
What is the last book that you read?
Blitzscaling by Reid Hoffman.
Yep. What's the one thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
I would say revenue.
If there would be no boundaries in technology, right? Everything is possible. What's the one thing that you would fix for your role as a growth marketer?
That's a good question. I would say data inaccuracy.
Mm-hmm. What's the last thing that kept you awake at night about the company?
Data inaccuracy.
Nice. And for the very last question, I would like to do a little bit of time travel, right? So let's go back to the Bilkent University days, right? You're heading out of formal education into the world of, growth and marketing. You've been a growth hacker for a while as well. What's the one advice you would give yourself for your journey?
I would say keep working because I was a lawyer, and from lawyer I found myself in a startup environment, and it kept getting better and better. So if I could see myself like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I would just say keep working, because at the end of the day, everything is so start.
Is there anything, just a small follow-up there, is there anything that you can tell listeners, because there might be others who, for example, move from like a law, for example, requires obviously a lot of education to even get to that point, but then you moving towards marketing, like any tips and tricks, what you found helpful when doing that transition?
I would say follow the industry, follow the community, follow the people on LinkedIn. I did not learn anything from books or from school, but I learned everything from YouTube, from other people on LinkedIn. And like if you follow the influencers, if you follow the community, if you read about other people's posts and watch their videos, you will be just fine.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Pathmark Presents.
Thank you for having me, Lucas.